Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Welcome back, everybody, to the Near Memo, and I'm Greg Sterling. I'm here with David Mim and Mike Blumenthal, as always. And we're talking about the week's news in search, social, and commerce, and anything else that comes into our minds spontaneously in the moment. I have a relatively new haircut, although my hair does not look as good as it can. But, I'm returning to the world of normal appearance gradually. So, all right, with that.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You always look pretty pretty tailored and in good shape, David. So
well, you're too kind.
Anyway, so you let's kick it off with the news about the VistaPrint rebranding.
Exactly. So, Greg, it was really an interesting highlight on your part in our newsletter earlier this week that VistaPrint is rebranding as Vista. I think that it probably pretty easy to understand why they're rebranding to remove the word print from their name, given the world going digital. But it struck me as in my mind, a very successful rebrand in terms of it's visually very sharp, and the website is really clean and modern and everything else, things that I wouldn't have associated with VistaPrint prior to the rebrand. B, I think executionally, it's interesting that they're not trying to do everything at once, which is, there's pluses and minuses, but I think it's more of the sort of MVP rebrand mindset as opposed to the, try to encompass everything. So they still are maintaining independent brands and independent websites for their portfolio companies that I assume over time will sort of get folded into the Vista.com experience. But that was just an interesting thing to me, that they were able to sort of compartmentalize the stages of their rebrand, and I thought they did a pretty nice job with it. And then it also ties in with their fellow NBA jersey sponsor, Squarespace. So VistaPrint, or now Vista, sponsors the Celtics. Squarespace sponsors the Knicks, which I think is just an interesting dynamic at face value. And Squarespace announced on their earnings call today, which you also highlighted, that their total addressable market is 800 million SMBs and solopreneurs, which gets back to the TAM discussion we had a few episodes ago on the Near Memo. And it strikes me that Vista and Squarespace are probably actually competing for a similar set of that 800 million. My first memory of VistaPrint is all of their promotions around, get 50 free business cards, which, who needs 50 free business cards? It's the person who's just started a business.
Or Mike Blumenthal, who forgets to give them away. Perfect number for me. I have some gather up cards if you'd like them.
Collector's items. Those might be worth something someday. But it just strikes me that they're both competing for a similar market, and potentially this rebrand may signal a different product focus on Vista's part. But I think that it's a nice way to evolve their brand that still addresses kind of that same market. And I think we're now it's very interesting to me to see the money and interest now that's going after the very low end of the SMB space, which for as long as Mike and I have been involved in digital marketing, local search has been just completely ignored. And it seems like now there are real venture capital bets being made on the very small business and getting a customer very early on that will maintain a relationship with you as they grow. So I thought it was an interesting rebrand, a well executed rebrand, and speaks to the value of that very low end SMB.
What's interesting?
One has to ask where 800 million comes from, the addressable market.
Well, it's somebody's number. Somebody sat in a room and came up with that number, and undoubtedly it's too big. But directionally, it suggests that the market for these companies is much larger than what historically everybody has been thinking. This is a global number, but it's a number to impress. It's got to be based on some third party calculation. The guy can't, the CEO just can't pull it out of his posterior. There's got to be something he can point to. So somebody has made some calculation, however questionable, that this is the the potential market, and they've swept a lot of individuals. He used the word creators, which is a lot of people who are now on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, Etsy, trying to sell a lot of side hustles in there, with people hoping to make money and maybe turn them into larger businesses. But still, it's a massive, massive number.
Horace Dadu, in relation to Apple's announcement about their business IT product, used the numbers closer to what you've traditionally used, which was 30 million in the United States and 200 million globally.
Well, that's the official number in the U.S. That's the Census Bureau, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the U.S. is like 32 now, I think, is the official number. And years ago when I was working for the Kelsey Group, we always sort of cut that in half or cut it down even further because of the reasons that you implied, David, that there just wasn't a lot of disposable discretionary spending at the very low end. So you had to go after somebody who had some budget and who was a more sophisticated marketer to get that, that money. But by the same token, the average spend was like $6,000 a year. The average SMB marketing spend was $6,000 a year, and it's probably no different today if we look at it. So I was going to say one other thing about the VistaPrint. I got this is not what I was going to say, but I used it a bunch of times, like for joke business cards. Like I have these business cards that say Greg Sterling certified practitioner on them.
This is how they got to 800 million, Greg. You've been inflating the numbers.
Yes, I'm at least 100 million of them. Anyway, no, I agree. I thought it was a nice rebrand, and these I know what I was going to say. These companies now, like Squarespace and Wix and VistaPrint, Vista, and others,
GoDaddy, Square.
Yeah, they have a massive track record, and they have they have real revenues, and so it's easy to now look at them and say that space is worth investing in, because they've proven it out to a large degree, I think.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, it's not the traditional path to go down though, which is to start small and go into enterprise, right? I haven't seen too many companies other than the 4 or 5 that we mentioned in the last couple of years start small and go even smaller, which is
right.
It's
the other way, because people think, why am I spending all this time and effort to try and get these very little accounts when I can spend less time and get much bigger accounts and 80-20 or something like that. Okay, so
thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.